Welcome to Profit and Prosper, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to make some money while doing what they love. On this podcast, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about all things business and money, but I promise you this is not your typical boring numbers talk. I'm your host, Sarah Young, a CPA and CFO with over a decade of experience in finance, business, and leadership. I'm going to share everything I've learned from helping my clients grow more profitable businesses and keep more of what they earn while growing my own successful business along the way. You'll feel empowered and confident that you too can grow your wealth, live a rich life, and have an impact. Stick with me and you might even start to think that finance is fun. Let's dive in. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the podcast. This week, I've got an interview for you that is all about time management and productivity, something that I think basically all of us could probably improve in one way or the other. Even me, who I've gotten myself down to working max about 30 hours a week between both my agency business, my coaching business, and the business we just acquired. I still find that there are days that I'm not productive. There are areas of my business that could be improved. There's always something we could do as it relates to time management and productivity. So I think this is a really important topic. That is why I wanted to have Brittany on so we could chat about it. Brittany Dixon is a minimalist business strategist and fractional COO who helps business owners create a business without burnout by giving them systems, strategies, and routines so they can increase their revenue and triple their productivity for massive impact. She's the host of the Productivity Podcast and loves traveling by RV across the country and camping with friends and family. She's about to go with her twin daughters and husband on an RV road trip, for a year. They're packing up their lives and living in an RV and driving around the country for an entire year while she's still running her business and her husband will still be working remotely, and they're homeschooling their daughters. And so to be able to do all of that, she really has to practice what she preaches, which is something I think is really important. So in this episode, I kind of just grilled her, not in a bad way, but we talked about all kinds of things that I think is really important for entrepreneurs, especially in this episode, I would say for those of you who are in the solopreneur stage. Not that everybody won't benefit from this episode, but I think if you are in the solopreneur stage, or even if you have a small team and you're ready to scale your business up, you have to get really good at time management. You have to be able to focus your time on the high value activities that move you forward and learn how to either systematize or delegate basically everything else in order to scale. So in this episode, I asked her all of the questions that I want to know and that I think you guys need to know, everything I could think of, from calendar management to startup and shutdown routines to even organizing your digital files. So I'm excited for all of us to dive in. So first things first, tell us about who you are and your business and what you do.
So my name is Brittany Dixon. I'm the CEO of Brittany & Co. I currently reside outside of Columbus, Ohio, but my family and I are about to be traveling the country, so I'm going to have a different address every other week. I am a business strategist and productivity coach. So really, I focus on all of the different systems and organization in the back end of your business that you didn't start a business for and are not great at, so that you can get back to doing what you're actually good at, what you're trying to help clients with, that sort of thing. So really just helping people work smarter, not harder, by putting some simple minimalist systems in place, not 5,000 different apps. But I've been doing this for about 5 years now. Prior to that, I helped organize houses. My business was called Clutter Control. So I did the whole Marie Kondo home edit thing, not as pretty and color coded, but did that for a little bit. I actually stumbled into entrepreneurship accidentally after I got let go from my corporate event planning job. So previous to that, I was an event planner. So really, I'm an organizer by nature. I organized events, then I organized houses, and now I organize businesses. So that's the short version of it.
That seems like a pretty natural progression to going from being a home organizer. I have several home organizing clients, and I feel like it could be a pretty natural switch to do business systems once you get really good at the home stuff. So yeah, that's a cool background. One thing you said, so there's two things you said. Number one, I was telling you just before this, I'm so intrigued by the RV thing. I want to talk about that.
Yes.
But one other thing you said was minimalist systems. What does
Yes.
that mean?
If you're in the online space or just business in general, I think that you know that you've had to enter your email and sign up for an account for so many different platforms and softwares to run your business. And I really go in and try to audit businesses and see where we can combine and condense things and get rid of some of that, because I feel like a lot of wasted time happens with that, right? If you have to log into 15 different places to do your work, if you've got to remember all those passwords and usernames and putting your credit card in, like I'm a minimalist by nature, and it's kind of followed me through this entire journey with in homes. And now I live in an RV. So I've kind of just taken a lot of those same principles of less is more and just put them into business as far as that goes. But it's also like strategies and the number of projects you're doing and the number of things that you're doing. So it's not really just the tools, it's kind of just like an all around holistic approach to business.
Yeah. It's so true. Like every time I onboard a new team member, the number of things that I have to add them to is unreal. And most of the team members that we have are coming from because I have an accounting CFO firm, and a lot of them are coming from the corporate world. Many of them are, and they're not used to small business world. And they're
Yep.
just like, what is
Yeah.
this? I have to track like 8 different things, and it's ridiculous. And I wish somebody would come up with like an all-encompassing solution, but
Yeah.
that's maybe I
It
don't know.
does not exist. Trust me, I have searched high and low for it. Now, there are a number of things that you can kind of condense and combine and have less systems. But I mean, running a business in today's day and age, you have to have some
Yeah.
stuff.
I wasn't planning to ask you any of this, but it came up,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's so crucial. So, do you have any systems that you're like, this system, I love this software. This is amazing. I recommend everybody use it.
Yeah. So I am a huge Asana fan. Honestly, in this stage of my life with business and moving to the RV and cross country travel and homeschool, like there is no way my life would be able to function without Asana. So if for those of you that may not know, Asana is a task and project management tool. So it's really my second brain. Any kind of action item or thing that I have to do, it is universal for home and business. But as far as for business goes, I would say 17 Hats, the CRM and scheduling and proposals and contracts is probably my favorite tool, and might be because it makes me money when I follow up with clients. But I also just love the simplicity of it and then it's all combined into one space. So
Yeah,
those are probably my top two.
that's it. So, yeah, I use ClickUp. So, I don't know if you like your thoughts about ClickUp. Actually, I was telling you before this too. We literally just signed the papers to buy a business today, and I'm thinking that for the new team coming in, I'm not even gonna put them in ClickUp because it can be really overwhelming for people to use.
Yeah.
And we have, for our accounting business, we have a whole separate like client document storage and like portal system that has a workflow tool. And I'm like, I might just combine them in there.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then
And
I have
that's
clients.
the minimalist mindset that I want people to have is like, how can I make this easier on myself, make it take less time? Yeah, it's definitely crucial. ClickUp, I'm not a super fan of ClickUp. One, if I would ever move from Asana, it would take me like a month to even do that. I just feel like there's too many bells and whistles, and like my brain would just be all over the place with
Yeah.
ClickUp.
That's what I mean. It's like for me, I've been using it for like, I don't know, almost 3 years probably. And I'm good at it. But to bring a
Yeah.
whole new team into, I'm just like, yeah, no, they don't need this. We're going to simplify. Um,
Yes.
and then I have clients who use 17 hats, but it's mostly, I guess I always thought of it as more of a B2C type software. I don't know why. I don't know if that's correct. I have like wedding industry clients, photographer clients that use 17
Yeah.
hats. And as a B2B service provider, I guess I just never really thought, I
Yeah.
always thought of like Honeybook or Dubsado as like what we're supposed to use.
Yeah, honestly, it is a lot of B2C. I think that has been their kind of focus is doing the wedding, event planning, that kind of space. But coming from that world, I knew how many similarities there were, and I am not a Dubsado fan. Like, I get the concept of like all in one, but I feel like it is so difficult to set up, and this is what I do for a living. So I feel like if that's like that for me, it's got to be hard for people that are creative and not system minded. So I looked at 17 hats and I was like, yeah, we're going to make this. This is the thing. So I just feel like it's simpler and easier to use, but
Yeah.
same concept all around.
Yeah, I tried Dubsado. I shut it down. I couldn't do it. It was just too
Yep.
much.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you before about the RV. So, like, tell me what
Yes.
that's gonna be like, and, like, how are you gonna keep running your business and, like, doing your podcasts and all of that with
Yeah.
twins and homeschooling and all of that on the road? I'm so intrigued.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy, but honestly, it kind of leads into this whole like days by design kind of time frame that we're talking about anyways. So honestly, we've been camping for like 3 years. We have loved it. We had an old fifth wheel. We tent camped like way before kids, and then I shut that down. But we've just always loved that, my husband and I. So this past year, we went through a pandemic. It was crazy insane. Like it just opened everyone's eyes. And I was like, how cool would it be to just live in this? Well, not this one specifically, but live in an RV for a year and just travel everywhere. And it was kind of just a pipe dream at that point. And basically, like I already had an online business, so I knew it was possible, right? I knew that if I was able to get my husband out of the 9 to 5, that we would be able to do this. And I actually had a client in December and January. And as I was working with him, he's actually in Columbus here. And he was like, well, this is the kind of person I'm looking for. This is the role. And he's like, do you know anyone? And the more we talked about it, and I helped him like create job description, I was like, I have a person. I don't want to make this weird, but like my husband would be the perfect person for this. And we've been talking about living in an RV and this would be remote. So that's kind of what kicked it off because the opportunity came up and I was like, we just have to do it. So we're going to be living in an RV for at least a year. We plan on doing like a big loop around the US. Sorry, middle states. We're kind of skipping all of you. It's going to be a crazy adventure. Honestly, Asana keeps me on track for all of that as far as business. The homeschooling stuff, like my kids are 10, my twins. So I'm going to have them in Asana and they're going to have their own little things that they have to complete. So, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to function any differently because I already had those systems in place as far as business goes. But yeah, the life stuff's going to be an interesting spin, both of us being here at home and homeschooling. So,
Yeah, so you were homeschooling before and now you're just gonna do it on the road?
no, we were not. So this is a whole
Oh.
my kids have been in public school up until 4th grade. They're 5th grade now and we're transitioning. So, yeah, that's the part that I'm probably the most nervous about, honestly, and then obviously just travel days, but the homeschool thing, I'm like, "All right, let's see how this
Yeah,
goes."
that's super interesting. So I was a teacher before I went back to get my master's in accounting, and now I have a 3-year-old and he's in preschool now, but I'm like, I did the traditional, school and
Yep,
college track and high achiever, top of the class, straight A's, blah blah blah. And now as an entrepreneur and then climb the corporate ladder, right? Like, and then now
yep.
as an entrepreneur, I'm just like, this is crap. Like, I'm not buying into this anymore. And so, like, I think there's basically a 0% chance he's going to even go to public school ever. But I think we're looking at either like the homeschool or maybe one of the like Montessori type schools. I don't know. So
Yeah,
it's just
yep,
interesting to me to talk to people who are also like, oh, we're going to make the switch to doing homeschool. I'm sure it'll be
yeah.
a challenge, but
It'll be a challenge, but there you have so much more flexibility with that, and I feel like they learn so much more in a short amount of time that you're not having to it's not like traditional school at all. Like,
no.
they do not have to sit down for 7 hours and do worksheets and tests, like, it's none of that. So, it'll definitely be a shift, but, I'm excited for it, and
Yeah.
I think they're excited, so we'll see.
That's exciting. So another tangent, I was on a plane. I went to visit my sister a few months back, and on the flight back, I was next to this man who had boys. One was in middle school, one's in high school, and he's like, "Yeah, we bought this big plot of land out in the middle of nowhere. We have cows and goats and a farm, and my kids are homeschooling and they basically finish their work in like 2, 3 hours a day in high school. And then one of them does like coding in the afternoon and the other one goes to basketball. I was like, I just love that. I love the flexibility that they have. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
this is not meant
Yeah.
to be a show about homeschooling.
No, but it does, it ties into it, right? Because all of what I've done in my business and what I teach other people is what has allowed me to do this and have Fridays off and not have a crazy schedule that I'm able to travel on the road. And one day we'll be traveling, one day we're parked. And yeah, I think it all ties in together for sure.
Yeah. Well, so that's a really nice segue
Yeah.
into you have your framework. Tell me about how that
Yeah.
framework works.
This is my days by design framework. And it really is just about creating your days by your design and not by the default, right? Like, I feel like so many of us just get into a rut. We all set goals at the beginning of the year, and then things just kind of happen, stuff slows down, and you don't really take control of your calendar, right? Like, you're not taking control of your time, it's just kind of passing by. And what I found with business is that if you don't block out time for self care, time for life stuff first, your business will take over very, very quickly, right? People that don't put like admin time on their calendar for business or marketing time, and then they fill their calendar and that stuff still has to happen. That's when you start getting into working 16-hour days, 17-hour days, and you're burnout and you're working on weekends and you're working on vacation. So it really is just this framework that I kind of walk through as far as like creating that ideal week for you, that I take entrepreneurs through to just make sure they're taking control of their time and not letting it just kind of take over them.
Yeah. So you said not doing the default.
Yeah.
What is most people's default?
So many people have great intentions. They want to do the workout, they want to do the things for self-care in the morning, they want to do all these things with the kids, and then, it just gets busy and you're just kind of doing your thing. You work, you close the computer down, you have dinner, you sit and watch Netflix. Like, it's just that kind of like it just happens, right? Where then you get to the end of the year and these goals that you set, you haven't actually achieved because you're not taking daily action to do it, because you didn't create that within your calendar or within your ideal week, right? So I think it's just that the people that set those goals at the beginning of the year and then they come back to January and kind of have a lot of those same goals, that's kind of that default. Whereas if you know what those goals are, it can break down daily actions and build that into a calendar and into your week. I just feel like you're going to be able to achieve a lot more, be able to do more.
I feel like you must see a lot of the like underlying mindset work coming up because I think when we set these big goals, it's always like, I want to do X in my business or I want to finally get healthy or whatever it is. And it's the
Yep.
goals that we set year after year and like never make any progress. And, that comes down ultimately to your mindset and nervous system work, probably, right? Like actually making change and
Yep.
doing something different is really difficult.
It is. And there are a lot of mindset things, right? Like, I do most of the tactical stuff. I'm like, okay, let's do a time audit and let's figure out what your perfect week looks like. There's a lot of tactics to it as well. The mindset piece of it, there is a lot of stuff that comes up, right? I grew up really, really poor. And then I got into this online space where you can make $500 in your sleep. And you're like, what is this? Right. So it's been a lot of mindset work. And there's a lot of making sure you have boundaries once you set up that schedule. You've got to make sure that you're saying no to stuff that doesn't fit within this. There's a lot of things internally that you have to be really good at. Perfect example, I spent all of 2021 telling myself, like, I want to take Fridays off. I want to take some Fridays off. I want to take, like, I continue to say it over and over. And then somebody would call and say, hey, let's book a call on Friday. And I said, yes. Right. So that continued to happen. 2022 rolls around and I'm like, you know what? No, I am blocking it off on my calendar physically. It's going to say, do not book every single Friday of 2022. And what happened was, did I take every Friday off? No. But because I had that bumper in place and started to develop those habits around seeing that and saying, oh, yeah, Fridays, I want that off, I started taking Fridays off. And there's two pieces to that. It's the mindset side of like, can I take Fridays off and not have to work hard for money? There's the just boundaries of looking at it and saying no. There's so much of that. And then it's the tactical piece that now that it's in my calendar, I have that bumper in place and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm taking Friday off. Or I've taken 3 Fridays off. Maybe I should work a little bit. So it's definitely both sides of that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes the tactical stuff, if you can put the right systems in place, then it actually helps you hold yourself accountable to the things that you
Yep.
said you wanted to do. And then I feel like it makes it easier to begin to recognize when you're like purposely breaking out of the system that you set for
Yeah.
yourself. So I think it,
Yeah.
it definitely helps with accountability, I would say.
For sure. And I have my clients like create a new calendar inside of their calendar within Google. And I'm basically like, map out your perfect week. If you look back at your calendar week over week, we're creatures of habit. It's pretty much the same kind of flow. And I feel like if you can put that in your calendar in a different color and see what overlays into that perfect week that you've built, then you're going to be more intentional with saying, like, oh, I keep taking this type of call on Monday when I need to be taking it on Tuesday. Like you're just more aware of it. And when you're aware, you can actually make changes.
Yeah, I do that. I do that. I have like an ideal schedule
Yep.
in my Google, and I'll toggle it on and off and sort of overlay it. And then, when I came up with that schedule, I use Calendly to book everything. So I went
Yep.
into my Calendly and like changed my availability to reflect the new schedule. I think I see a lot of clients struggle with saying yes to meetings and like client communication outside of those boundaries. So I think that's one thing to address. I'll
Yep.
tell you my personal thing that I struggle with is the end of the day and, like, making the choice to get up and go home when I said I wanted to instead of answering more emails or continuing to work on this project or going to work out or whatever. Like, it was always
Yep.
that. It's like I don't schedule meetings usually past, like, 2:30 would be, like, the latest that I'm
Yeah.
ever gonna have a meeting go, and my goal is to be out of here by, like, 3:34. It's just this constant thing where I've had to recognize, like, I'm every day making that choice to stay and work
Yeah.
because of the scarcity mindset of, like, "Oh, if I don't respond to this email, if I don't get this done, then everybody's gonna fire me and I'm gonna fail."
Yeah. No, 100%. The mindset stuff it's a constant. I honestly think most business owners just need to work on mindset stuff. Like stop buying courses for strategy, like work on your mindset. The other stuff will come.
Mhm.
But like you said too, that you took the action and you actually went into your Calendly system and said, like, this is my availability for this type of call. And until you do that, people will just people will just keep booking, people will keep filling up your calendar, they'll keep asking for meetings. Like that doesn't stop. So if you don't put bumpers in place, like that's where you're going to burn out and you're not going to have the time to do stuff that you want to in your personal life because you're so stuck in business. So yeah, it's both the tactical and the mindset stuff for
Yeah.
sure.
And then one of the things I've done to make me get up and go is I hired a personal trainer starting a couple months ago because one of my personal goals, like I have no problem achieving business goals. I struggle with personal goals because I'm comfortable working. But one of my personal goals obviously is to exercise regularly. And I swear, like, I wouldn't exercise consistently more than like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And so this personal trainer opened up near my house and next to the grocery store that we go to, and it's woman owned and it's not a franchise. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. So I signed up and I have it 3 times a week or like
Yeah.
twice a week in the afternoon at 3. And so it forces me to get up and stop work and pack up my laptop and like go and exercise. And my nothing has failed. Like nothing
Right.
has broken since I
Yep.
started doing that. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and that's one of the biggest things. And again, like back to those routines and having some things in place, some systems for this is I have an end of day routine that I have done for like the past 4 years. And it really allows me to like turn off business and know that it's there. It's waiting for me tomorrow, but turn off business and like move on to family. So basically in the day, it's my 3 P's of productivity. So process, plan, and prepare. So basically, process, I would go through all of my notes for the day, like everything that was open. And if there's any kind of action item, I would put it into Asana if I needed to close stuff out. So I'm basically just processing what happened throughout the day. And then I'm going in and planning out my next day. I'm looking at my meetings, I'm looking at my task list, and I'm basically merging them together and saying, what tasks am I doing between meetings and kind of making myself a roadmap. And then prepare, it sounds a lot like plan, but I use it as getting materials ready to execute the plan. So if I need an outline for a podcast, if I need client files, if I need whatever, I make sure all of that's like on my desk and ready. And I did this, it took me a longer time before it was kind of natural, but it's about a 15 to 30 minute process. And I would do that at the end of the day. And now I can shut everything down. I know I have a plan. I know my tasks are in the right place for tomorrow. And I was able to actually go enjoy my family and not think about work constantly. So I think, again, having some sort of system to do that tactically, but you still have to have the push behind you to actually do it. But it takes away a lot of anxiety and lets you take care of yourself and reach your personal goals too.
I love the idea of like a startup routine and a shutdown routine for work. I use a full focus planner and I have for a while, and that's one of the things they talk about in there. I
Yeah.
feel like my startup routine is pretty solid, but for me personally, I've always struggled with the end of day, and it's either like not starting it on time or things that I have put in the end of day routine that take me longer than planned.
Yep.
For example, I'll give you an example, and I want to ask you what you tell people to do for this. Email for me is just insane always. And I'm not one of those people in my email all the time. So I do something called email stacking. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but you kind of like process it into like buckets of reply, or there's like a task to do, or it's just something to review later. And so what I'll do is like I'll go in the morning and kind of stack it all. And then in the afternoon, I go through and like sit down and reply to everything all at once. And it works well, except sometimes I'll find that like the replies just take me way longer than normal. And then that ruins my whole end of day routine. And I don't get through the rest of it. I don't get to like, I love to do what you did, like plan out what's happening
Yeah.
tomorrow and put together the things I need and make sure my desk is clean. So I'm coming in and it's nice. And so just stuff like that just seems to always come up.
Yeah. No, email is definitely like the biggest problem, honestly, in the entrepreneur space. I would say you can't stop email from coming in, right? There are a couple ways you can kind of change that, like client communications, doing that a little bit differently could take away some of those emails. Unsubscribing from things you don't actually even read that you let go in there. You just kind of have to recognize that either your routine will be longer or you're going to have to kind of reset the next day. For me, my end of day routine is actually more important than the beginning of day. I feel like if I don't do the end of day, like everything is chaos the next day. So it like sets everything, it just continues the cycle. So for me, I actually spend more time and more focus on my kind of end of day than I do on the beginning because I just feel like it wraps everything up and preps it. It's like a dual purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, end of day for me, I can tell if I did not do my end of day routine. I'm like, yeah, so it's hot mess express here.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. I always feel
Yeah.
better if I get through it. It's just like, the email is a struggle. Okay, out of curiosity, you said there's different ways to do client communication. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people do client communication within email. There's a lot of tools that have like portals available for that, or even on Voxer. I like Voxer a lot because I feel like you can communicate the exact same thing faster and reply faster than you can in email. So I definitely think there's alternatives that we can find. I also set really, really clear boundaries at the beginning of emails and like I don't want 5,000 different emails from clients. I basically try to get as much information from them that I need at the beginning so I don't have to ask for a lot. So some of your client process when you're onboarding could be cleaned up to kind of take some of that away. But there's also, I've started doing the voice in your email, like basically all this AI stuff, right? I don't know if it's an extra app, but you can oh no, it's on my Mac. I don't know what it's called now. Basically, you can have it voice everything in your email. I've started doing that and the replies have been so much faster than
So you
trying to
just
type
like
out.
talk out loud and it types it for you?
Yep. So I think it's like it's in the keyboard recognition things. You like double click command and it pulls it up and dictates it for you. But that has been a game changer. And I don't know why I didn't think about that sooner. So just trying to find like little hacks to make email faster. Cause
Yeah.
like you said, you get so many and you can't make it go completely away, but trying to kind of minimize a little bit.
Yeah, no, so I have, CFO agency and then coaching programs. And coaching, yes, we use, I have Slack and I'm using
Yeah.
Telegram now, which I actually like better than Voxer, even though less
Okay.
people use it.
Yeah.
But it has like you can have like a channel and then organize within the channel, like different
Yeah.
threads. And anyways, That I do love. For my agency business, for honestly, this is just like a CYA. Like I want stuff documented in email that
Yeah,
I can refer back to later in case somebody comes at
for
me.
sure.
And honestly, I'm at the point, and it's for us, it's like, we have the client onboarding, we have a portal, we have all those things. It's just like we have questions. People are asking us things, and that's what takes the longest time. Is like, hey, this is coming up, or this happened, or please help. And those are the
Yeah.
things that tend to take a while. And so I'm honestly at the point where with my team size where it is, and then buying this other business, we're going to hire like a client care person, and their main job is going to be to help coordinate
Yeah.
the emails and questions and make sure things are getting
Abs-
responded to so that I can spend my time focusing where it's needed. And then my team, like, my CPAs are not cheap. They're expensive
right.
team members. And I want to make sure that they're using their time
Super
as
efficiently.
doing as much technical work as they can, and then less of the back end work. So I'm going to try this,
Yep.
hiring somebody like a client care person and see how that
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah. And a lot of my one-on-one clients, most of my, because your guys' is probably more ongoing. So you are going to get some more messages from that. But with mine, they're kind of like one-off projects. There's like start and end dates. We actually communicate a lot with clients in Asana. So I'll create a client project, and basically any kind of communication happens through there. The best part about this is that as soon as a communication turns into an action, I'm already in the system that it needs to be created in, right? So I just feel like there's way less back and forth with team and clients, because I don't email my team either. Everything happens in Asana because we're talking about the tasks that are in there, right? They have questions about that task. Why not ask it on it? So there are lots of different ways you can get rid of a lot of email, but yeah, you're never going to completely get
Yeah.
rid of it with clients, unfortunately.
No, that's interesting. No, because we have, with our workflow being in ClickUp, sometimes there's like Slack questions, and sometimes there's comments on the ClickUp task, and it's just like maybe I need a systems audit.
Yeah.
Moving on, moving on. What are some of the biggest things that entrepreneurs, like when it comes to time freedom, like what are the biggest blockers outside of the mindset stuff? What are the biggest blockers to actually having time freedom?
So the first thing is that there's actually a stat out there that says we spend about 12 and a half hours a week searching for information digitally in all of this craziness, right? So you're talking Slack and ClickUp messages and emails and text messages and social media messages and files and PDFs and JPEG. Like there's a lot of digital clutter, right? So I see so many entrepreneurs wasting so much time just with the disorganization of everything. This also comes down to like affiliate links and passwords and usernames and like login information for things. Like there's so much stuff going on. So I feel like if we could just get I call it our digital workspace, organized in a way that is super simple, super minimalist, super easy to find things, that entrepreneurs could gain an extra day just with that alone. So a lot of that digital clutter stuff, a lot of everything that I do, even if it's big system setups for CRMs and sales processes, it all comes down to time management and not having time blocks for sales, time blocks for marketing, time blocks for networking, client work, all of those different pieces. It all comes down to time management. So those two things I think are the biggest struggles from a tactical standpoint that I see a lot of people run into. And like you said, you built that ideal calendar. I feel like doing that would completely solve that. And then the other side of it, you've got to clean up your digital workspace. You've got to have some pretty core apps to keep track of stuff for sure.
As you're talking about like having to search for things, I totally agree. And so I try, and this is something I feel like for me, it's hard to take the time when I'm searching for things. I don't want to take the time to like make my life easier later.
Yep.
But like I have a favorite document in ClickUp that's like up at the top of my favorites bar that has links that I refer back to all the time. And so if I ever need a link, I go copy it from there. But even that sometimes is annoying because then I have to like go to that window and click on the favorite and then copy the
Yeah.
link.
Yeah.
And when you stop and think about how much you do that, it's
Oh yeah.
so
It adds up.
obnoxious.
It adds up super quickly. And then trying to find PDFs on emails and trying to find emails, like It's a lot. It's a lot. So, I have another framework, my BCO framework, and this is honestly how I organize pretty much everything in my business. So, business development, client services, and operations is what those three things stand for. And every business has that. I don't care what kind of business you are; those are your three main departments. And I use this framework to talk through strategy. So I'm thinking about strategy. I'm like, all right, from a biz dev side, like what things are we doing? What are we working on? From a client perspective, what are we doing, etc. So I use it at high level. I also use it in my team meetings. It's like that's kind of how we go through different things we need to talk about is those three buckets. But then I started to organize my entire digital workspace that way. So my Google Drive folders are the BCO method. My bookmarks bar where I save all my stuff, BCO method. We've got all of our email folders is the BCO method. So Asana is the same way. I basically used three buckets for everything to be organized within. And when I started doing that, now I don't have to think about where stuff goes or where to find stuff. So I save
Mm,
myself so much time. I should send you a screenshot to put in the show notes of like my bookmarks bar and like extensions.
yeah. Well,
um,
so biz development is, I'm
yeah.
assuming, like sales, marketing,
Yeah.
leads.
I'll walk through that because it can kind of mean stuff to different people. So yeah, business development, I actually make it green with my color coding. So it's stuff that's making you money within the business, growing the business. It's going to be any kind of sales, marketing, networking, being on podcasts, getting visibility, content, social media, all of that kind of stuff. Client services is really, and this is service based or product based, whoever is purchasing things from you, any kind of meetings or customer service or client relations or onboarding or offboarding. So anything that really has to do with people paying you. Operations is all that other stuff that you just love doing. All of the admin, the email, creating processes, onboarding team members, bookkeeping, finances, all of that kind of stuff kind of falls into that bucket. So, and then I have subcategories kind of within that. But I think one of the biggest things I see people do that aren't organized is try to like hyper organize and over organize. So if you have folders with subfolders with subfolders with subfolders, you've went too far. You're never going to follow that system. So that's why I like to use like very few high level folders there with that method.
That's interesting. I'm sitting here thinking like, my ClickUp is that way because I have like sales and marketing, client care, and then like admin, which is what I would call
Perfect.
operations.
You've already got the BCO method.
But I'm like, I don't have my email set up that way. I'm trying to think through like all the
Yeah.
things. Okay.
Yeah. So email, Google Drive, Asana, like I mean, team meeting strategy, like higher level, all of that kind of stuff too. But it's just pretty much everything is kind of within those buckets because then it doesn't matter which platform I'm in. I'm like BCO method. This is where it goes. And even if I just get it into that main bucket and it's not in a subcategory, like at least it's there. And I know it's kind of divvied up in that way. So
Yeah.
and that's just how I kind of think through everything because I think so many times you've got one system in this tool and you've got another system in this tool. And like that's a lot of brain power every time you flip back and forth to try and think about where you put something. And I think that's why people are spending 12 and a half hours a week searching for all
Yeah.
the items.
Yeah. No, that's true. And it's crazy that stat is a lot. And I could see if somebody's working like, 50, 60 hours a week or more, like that could be very easy.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like you've given us like a ton of things talking about like the mindset stuff and end of day routine and some like calendaring stuff and organizing stuff. So, I think the last thing I want to touch on is how can this lead to money freedom? And obviously, I have thoughts, but I would love to
Yeah.
hear yours.
So we all know that time is money, right? Like you can get more money, but you can't get time back. And I think that if you are able to block off Fridays and do more for yourself, if you are able to put a lot of these tactical things into place, it's going to allow you to feel better and then obviously, we all know if you're healthy and you feel better, things flow more in your business. And I think that if you can work on a lot of this mindset stuff and the self care and have time for yourself and are not working 17 hours a day, it just leads to everything. It's kind of like a snowball effect. So, I think that it just allows you to have so much more balance in your life, and then you feel better and you can actually just go make more money and you attract higher end clients, and it's just kind of a whole snowball effect for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, when I like the personal trainer example is a really good one where I did it and I realized like, okay, I'm leaving work earlier and things aren't falling apart and like things are
Right.
still happening
Right.
and I'm working less hours in the week, but nothing's breaking. I mean, are there some things that I would have gotten done faster? Yes, absolutely, but like it's going to be okay. No
Well, and
one's
that's the
no
thing
one's
that
dying.
it will never end. There's
No.
always something that needs to be done or that you want to do, right? So even if you checked off your whole list of everything you need to do, you still want to do stuff, right? You still want to write a book and you still want to host a retreat. Like there's all these things that you still want to do that you're thinking of. Like you can literally just do stuff 24/7. So if you don't put some boundaries in place, it is going to run you over and you will be burnt out at some point. I
Yeah.
know probably a lot of people have already experienced that. I've definitely experienced that before, but like you said, doing the personal trainer allowed you to feel better and actually then see that stuff wasn't falling down. Same thing with me when I took off Fridays. I was like, "Oh, everything's still fine and I have a 3-day weekend now. Like what took me so long to do that?" So I think it leads to so much time freedom, which it just opens up so many
Yeah.
doors.
Well, you're more intentional with the time you have
Yeah.
and so many things. I think too, like sleep is important. So getting the chance to sleep well because you're
Yeah.
not working late and because for me, like I can't even think about work stuff the last couple hours of the night or I will not fall asleep. And then I feel
Yeah.
like crap the next day and it snowballs. So
Well,
yeah,
and that's a
you're
snowball in the wrong direction,
yeah.
right? Because then it's like night after night after night of this, and you're just continuing to do this. Honestly, I sleep like 8 hours a night, 9 hours a night. Like I used to have a ton of problems trying to sleep because I would work until 10 o'clock and I've got the blue light in my face. And then my mind's racing because I'm like, I forgot to do this and I didn't find this. And it's just all over. And I will tell you, when I put that end of day routine in place and like hardcore stuck to it, and was consistent with it over and over, that allowed my sleep to be better. My anxiety went down. Like it just improved so many things. So many
Yeah.
things.
I want to add quickly my little 2 cents about time freedom and money freedom. I have tons of opinions on like the money side. For me, I think business owners, I'll tell them things about like you're doing too many meetings. We need to have, change your calendar, blah blah blah. Or, can we take time and revamp this project or come up with, to spend time on the CEO strategy stuff. And the pushback in a lot of cases is like, well, I'm just too busy. I have too much client work to be able to take the time and also work on this. And so you're asking me to just work more hours in the short term. Like it just feels overwhelming and they don't do it. What I think people realize if they start doing time audits and start being more intentional with their calendar is you're going to very quickly see where you're spending time on things that are not actually serving you, whether it's searching through the digital clutter or just task hopping, never getting into flow or whatever. And I will tell people like, if you are working 60 hours a week, if you're working more than 30 hours a week, in my opinion, in your business, if you're working more than 30 hours a week and you're also not making a crap ton of money, you are spending your time on something that is not high value, that's not working, that's not bringing more clients, that's not improving your strategy. And so we need to do a reset. And I say this with love, but like it's fact. If I can run a high six-figure business about to be 7 with buying the business we're buying and also have coaching stuff, like you can do it also. If Brittany can
Yeah.
go homeschool her kids and go live in an RV and keep her business going, like, there's no reason you can't do it.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need that recalibrate, right? You need that, and I think that's the hardest thing, and again, it comes back to mindset for people is that I can't slow down. I can't slow down. I got to keep going, got to keep going. And the reality is when you slow down and actually stop and like look at things from above and figure out what's working, what's not working, do the time on it, do a reset. It actually allows you to go faster because you've slowed down and fixed things so that you can go faster without burning out. So like there's so much like the tactical and the mindset stuff that comes into productivity, and I think people go straight to the tactical. They're like, what's the next planner? What's the next thing? Give me all the calendars. I actually just read somebody's post today. They like put a picture of their planner up and they're like, I bought this at the beginning of the year and I used it for a month and I just found it. Oh, and I found my other 5 planners and I used none of them. So it comes back to the minimalism and knowing yourself, because if you have those tactical things in place, it's not going to work if you don't actually work on the mindset stuff around it.
Yeah.
So
Yes. It's both. Absolutely. Okay. Well,
both.
this was good. I feel like you gave us like so many tips, and now I'm like, okay, I need to do a systems audit now, which I kind of know
Yes.
already. I've known that already.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I won't go down.
Systems audit should be quarterly at least. Like,
Oh my God.
gotta do it.
I think it's probably been like 2 years. Anyways, it's working for now, but there's definitely things that could be improved.
And
But
it
okay.
doesn't happen in a day. So don't try, if you're listening to this, like don't go try to implement every single one of these things I just talked about today, because it's not going to work. You got to do little part by little part and kind of work your way through.
I agree. What is the first thing if they have none of these? What's the most crucial one, do you think?
Honestly, the digital clutter. I would say clean up your email, your Google Drive, your laptop, desktop, like clean that stuff up and get some of that clutter, because I think digital clutter is more harmful than like actual physical clutter. Cause like you can see physical clutter and at some point you have to do something about it. Digital clutter, you really don't. It can just keep piling up. So
Yeah. It takes up brain space too. Every
it
time you look at
does.
your email, every time I
You
open
get
it, if I haven't,
overwhelmed.
oh my
Yep.
God. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this was good. I have a question I ask everybody who comes on, and I think I know the answer to this, but for me, I talk about money, business, but it's important to like also upgrade your life now and not like defer happiness. I think I know the answer, but what is the way that your business is now allowing you to upgrade your life?
Well, we just bought a gigantic RV and truck to travel across the country. Yeah, no, when I talk about like camping, living across it, like we have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, like 44-foot fifth wheel. Like it's gigantic. We're not tent camping. But none of this would have been possible without a lot of these things that I put into place inside of my business to
Yeah.
allow the time and the money freedom to do both
Yeah.
things.
Well, it's a really great example of like actually doing the thing that you say that you want to do.
Oh yeah,
Like
I
actually doing it.
definitely walk the walk, right? Like I am putting all of these things in place for my clients. I've done all of them. I've tested this all out, and I know that I won't reach these big goals and these big dreams if I don't put a lot of this into place. Now, we started planning this almost a year ago. Like there was a lot of planning that had to go into place to make this RV thing happen. And again, it comes back to the systems, the organization, the mindset to be able to actually do that.
Good for
Yeah.
you for actually walking the walk. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't. And it's something I try to do. Like I preach about not working all the time and, growing your business and investing. And so that's why I'm at the point like in my agency business, I'm like, okay, we're calendaring this out. I'm doing like 15 to 20 hours a week.
Yep.
And that's it over there. And then I'm buying a business to like invest because I preach to my clients to do all the time. Like I can't not do it. So I totally feel you.
Take the action for that, right? Because it may not happen right away. You say, I want 20-hour weeks, and it may take you a month to get to them or 2 months because you've got to put some things in place. But if you don't have that end goal and start to take that action, you're never going to get there. And it's just going to be this continuous thing. So,
Yes. Okay. Well, where can we find you?
yeah. So my website is bcohq.co. I've got my podcast. It's on hold, but there's like 130 episodes over there. So you can check out everything there. And then I am mostly on Instagram. It's at brittanyandco.consulting. But if you want to follow the RV adventure, it's at the Dixon Detour. So DIXONDETOUR, like detour on the road. And we have a whole TikTok channel and all the things. So
I'm going to go follow you. Do you do like audits or anything like that?
yeah, definitely. Systems audits are one of my favorite things because they're so eye-opening and people are like, oh my gosh, I can save like $200 a month and get rid of some software and passwords and all of that. So systems audits are one of my faves.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here and
Yes,
for
thank you.
sharing all of this.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It was great.
All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you back here next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Now, I want you to go take some action. What's one thing you can do this week to create more profit in your business? Send me a DM on Instagram at YoungCoCFO and share your action item with me. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to dive into, or if you're feeling empowered about taking charge of your finances, let's continue the conversation. Go to profitandprosper.co to submit a question or topic for me to talk about on the show. And because we all profit and prosper better with friends, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe wherever you listen, and share the episode. Make sure you tag me at YoungCoCFO on Instagram so I can give you some love, and I'll see you in the next episode.